والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه ثم أما بعد. So inshallah today we have Bab al-Haya, the chapter on Haya. You could translate this as modesty, shyness, bashfulness, shame, decency, dignity, all combined. And in the fiqh session inshallah we will have the rest of the chapter on Salatul Jumu'ah or Jumu'ah prayer. Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah ta'ala said, Bab al-Haya, قال الله عز وجل ألم يعلم بأن الله يرى. Chapter on Haya, Allah Almighty said, does he not know that Allah sees? Does he not know that Allah sees? So like I said, the word al-Haya itself can be translated as modesty, but it may not, one word may not embody all the meanings of Haya. So that's why I have this list for you here. So it's modesty, shyness, bashfulness, dignity, decency, and then you will just call it al-Haya. Probably because it will confer the meanings that are intended, the word al-Haya. But certainly if you will have to select one word for al-Haya, it would be modesty, because that's the closest translation that we have. You may also say bashfulness may be closer than modesty. Bashfulness would be the closest to Haya that we have. You may also say bashfulness may be closer than modesty. It cannot be understood in isolation from the culture. Would be the closest to Haya does not consider bashfulness to be something positive. But at the end of the day, even sometimes modern culture is not considering shyness even to be something positive. Shyness, just recently in the last few years joined the DSM criteria of diseases. It's become a disease. It used to be called social phobia. Then, they call it now social and anxiety disorder. So shyness and social and anxiety disorder would be the same thing. So if the word shyness is a disease, in the DSM, which is the most important manual of psychiatric diseases, then that word is starting to carry or harbor negative connotations. Modesty will one day also have negative connotations. So if you say that bashfulness may have some negative connotations, every one of those words at one point may start to have negative connotations. We'll still have to use them. So modesty, bashfulness, shyness, decency, that's what al-Haya means. Shame also, shame. So when the Prophet ﷺ says, for instance, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحْيِ فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحْيِ فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ, or إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحْيِ فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. If you don't have shame, do as you like, do whatever you like, do whatever you want. You could translate لم تستحي here or لم تستحي as if you have no shame. If you have no shame, do as you please, do whatever you like. And certainly this is from the Prophet ﷺ, this is a threat, So do whatever you like and then you will be held accountable for it. So those who have no shame, they'll do whatever they want, but at the end of the day, they'll be held accountable for it. You could also say that the Prophet ﷺ meant, if you don't find it shameful, do it. So some of the scholars said that this is what the hadith means. Most of the scholars said that the Prophet ﷺ meant to say, if you have no shame, do whatever you like. Some of the scholars said the hadith meant, if it does not if it is not shameful, do it. Like examine it first, whatever you embark on, examine it first, think about it. If you don't find it shameful, do it. So he's attaching, he's saying that all evil is shameful. So if it is not shameful, it is not evil. So the Sheikh al-Harawi rahimahullah here started by quoting this ayah, أَلَمْ يَعْلَمْ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَرَى. Does he not know that Allah sees? Does he not know that Allah sees? This is how he is starting the chapter on al-haya. Does he not know? Does man not know that Allah sees? And it is particularly suitable of him to start the chapter with this ayah versus فَجَاءَتْهُ إِحْدَاهُمَا تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاءٍ. That's more clear or clearer ayah about haya in the Quran. The clearest ayah about haya in the Quran is when one of the two women, the daughters of the righteous man that Musa met in Madian, one of the two women came back to him after he helped them out, was given water to their flock. So they came back to him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَجَاءَتْهُ إِحْدَاهُمَا تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاءٍ قَالَتْ إِنَّ أَبِي يَدْعُكَ لِيَجْزِيَكَ أَجْرَ مَا سَقَيْتَ لَنَا. So one of them came back to him walking shyly or walking with modesty, and she said to him, my father invites you to sort of compensate you for your help. So this is the clearest ayah in the Quran talking about haya, but Imam al-Harawi wanted to use this ayah, this other ayah, to tell you many things, to tell you about the root of haya, the spring of haya. Where does haya come from? Haya comes from the fact that you should always be cognizant of Allah's watchfulness of you. You should always be aware, you should always be conscious of Allah watching you. And that is where your haya comes from. Otherwise, if you don't basically watch this, you will have no haya. If you are not watching Allah's watchfulness of you, you will have no haya. Someone may say, well, you could just be naturally inclined to haya. The natural inclination is not the khuluq that is reward worthy, that you will be rewarded for. It is not the khuluq that is part of ibadah, that's part of worship that you will be rewarded for. And eventually also, this natural inclination is because of the cultural inclination. So if the culture promotes haya, you will have people that have haya. You will have a lot of people that have haya. If the culture does not promote haya, haya will be taken away from the collective, not just the individual, but the collective. And that is eventually what we seem to be heading towards. That haya will be taken away. Without watching Allah or being cognizant of God watching you, because when it really comes down to atheism does not produce morality, does not produce morals. People who don't believe in God, they have borrowed morality. Where is it borrowed from? Like here in a predominantly Christian society, it is borrowed from Christianity. Christianity teaches about morality, it teaches good morals. Most of almost all the major religions in the world, they teach about morality. They emphasize the importance of morality, and that is where an atheist who grows up in a predominantly Christian society or a predominantly Buddhist society, that is what they're getting their morality from. Over time, if atheism prevails, takes over, and there would be no more religion, no more, the concept of God itself will be forgotten, then where would morality come from? Where would any objective standard of morality come from? Absolutely nothing. There will be no source of morality whatsoever. Because in the atheist worldview, all of these things are just manifestations of biochemical reactions in your brain, or different levels of hormones and enzymes and so on that are working in your brain in certain ways that are causing you to act a certain way or to behave a certain way or to have a certain list of values or standards. So they will be lost. So Sheikh here is trying to say that this all comes from your watchfulness of his watchfulness of you. Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara, does he not know that Allah sees? So haya in Islam should not be reduced into interpersonal dealings, into modesty in interpersonal dealings. Although modesty in interpersonal dealings is important, is a manifestation of haya, but it is just a manifestation of haya. But haya, it is predominantly and mainly and originally about your haya, your shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your embarrassment to be seen disobeying Him, to be seen by Him disobeying Him, to be seen by Him acting, shamelessly or acting disgracefully in any circumstance. So it should not be reduced into, just like a set of behaviors. It is about the quality itself. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ stressed the importance of al-haya in many ahadith, and we will inshallah cover some of them. So, like I said, it should not be reduced into hijab or interpersonal dealings, although these things are part of it, but it should not be reduced into these things. And it should not also apply to women only, because in our cultures where we grew up, men are not supposed to be shy, right? Or men are not trained, instructed in haya and modesty, shyness, and so on. That is not every household. That is not everyone in every household, but that is basically almost the dominant culture. So, like I told you, Islam is not. It's not about East and West. It's not about Eastern, Western, and this and that. So, in Eastern culture also, there are certain things that are not approved or that are not acceptable in our deen. Islam is not a northern, southern, eastern, or western religion. Islam is a religion that came down from the heavens, that revealed by the divine to mankind. So, but in Eastern cultures, there is a lot more emphasis, and there should be more emphasis on haya for women than men, but it is a lot more. It's exaggerated. And it detracts also from the importance of haya for men. Men should have, when it comes to the root of haya, when it comes to haya in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're being addressed equally here by this quality of haya in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes to interpersonal dealings, a little bit more emphasis on haya for women in interpersonal dealings, and the verse in the Quran talks about فَجَاءَتْهُ إِحْدَاهُمَا تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاءٍ. It's talking about a woman who came who came to him walking with modesty or shyly. So there is a little bit more emphasis on haya for women and when it comes to interpersonal dealings. But it should not be just limited to women. Even in interpersonal dealings, men should also practice haya. And the reason why there is a little bit of emphasis on haya for women is that, women manifest the divine attributes of beauty, the divine attributes, most of and they have the privilege of manifesting, like men manifest the divine attributes of intensity, severity, rigor, might. Women manifest the divine attributes of beauty itself, certainly, and compassion and all of the divine attributes, all or most of the divine attributes of beauty. They have a greater share of those divine attributes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instilled in us. Because everything that happens in this universe, the things that happen in the universe are manifestations of the divine attributes, translations of the divine attributes. So women manifest the divine attributes of Jamal more than men. Men may manifest the divine attributes of Jalal more than women. So rigor, intensity, severity, might, and so on are manifested by women. Men are asked to manifest them with control, properly. So you have to be measuring how you manifest those attributes of might and intensity and rigor. And women are also told to basically exercise or to manifest them or to project them properly, and to basically to do this in compliance with the divine instructions in his Sharia, to manifest those divine attributes in accordance with the divine instructions in Sharia. So there may be a little bit more emphasis on haya for women, but it does not mean that men should not have haya in their interpersonal dealings, and it does not mean at all that the root of haya, which is haya in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, applies to women only and should not apply to men. It should apply to both equally. And like I said, the farq, which is the multiplicity of our conditions, does not negate the jama', which is the oneness, the unity of the origin of all things. So when it comes to the origin from the divine side, not our human side and the multiplicity and variances of our circumstances, but when it comes to the divine side, it's all the same. Men and women, there is no difference between anything. It's all creation and creator, and that's it. But when it comes to the multiplicity of our conditions and our circumstances in this life, then everyone has to be observant of their circumstances, their individual their circumstances, and their the circumstances as the circumstances as members of a certain gender or this or that. And if we have time at the end, inshallah, we will talk a little bit more about the interpersonal dealings. But this is, that this chapter is not about interpersonal dealings. This chapter is about haya, in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, and to tell you that haya does not only apply to men, to women, the best of all men, most courageous of all men, most masculine of all men, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he exhibited, projected a lot of haya that they used to say about him. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, one of his companions, said about him, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشد حياء من العذراء في خدرها. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to be more shy or modest or bashful. Bashful may be the best word here, because al-azra fi khidriha, the unmarried woman, azra would be of the virgin woman in her private quarters. So unmarried virgin woman in her private quarters, they used to be more protective of those women. So he was more bashful than an unmarried virgin woman in her private quarters. And that it does not take away from the Prophet's courage, from the Prophet's masculinity whatsoever. Because masculinity is not about obscenity, and should not be about obscenity. Then Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah said, الحياء من أول مدارج أهل الخصوص يتولد من تعظيم منوط بود وهو على 3 درجات. الحياء من أول مدارج أهل الخصوص. Haya is one of the first steps of the stairway of the elites. One of the first steps on, of the stairway of the elites. So on your way up, this for the elites, Imam al-Harawi here acknowledged that here we're talking about the elites here. because in the past few stations he was talking about the commoners, that these are stations of the commoners, but he considers this station to be one of the first stations, one of the first steps on this stairway of the elites. So once you have, but keep in mind that he's not meaning that this does not belong to the commoners, but he's meaning the establishment, tamkeen, in this particular station or hal belongs to the elites. You could have tamkeen in a different station, and it is all about tamkeen, because when it comes to the pinnacle of each station, you have to be the greatest of the elites are the people who reach the pinnacle in each station, and when it comes to the pinnacle of all stations, they're all equal, right? So to reach the pinnacle of the station of tawakkul, the pinnacle of the station of patience, the pinnacle of the station of rida, the pinnacle of the station of, they're all equal. The pinnacles are all equal. But the variation that he's talking about is not about just visiting the station. It's not just about like basically the transient passing through the station, because all of us do. All of us pass through the station of rida sometimes, the station of sabr, patience sometimes, and do well, but it is transient. You're not established in this station. If you're established in this station, nothing will overwhelm you. Nothing will drive you out of it. You will always be in the station of rida, the station of sabr. Nothing will push you out of it. That is called the tamkeen, which is, in Sufi terminology, tamkeen is about your tamkeen and your manzil, basically your establishment in these stations. So there is a difference between transient, like a transient visit to the station. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could give you the tawfiq, basically to show rida at one time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could give you tawfiq to exhibit sabr in one occasion or a hardship, but you're really not established in this station. You're just like a visitor. So when he talks about the differences between the stations being commoners, public, and so on, he's saying that, to be established in the station, that is what we're measuring here. I'll even draw it. So if this is basically, if this is the station of rida, and this is the station of haya, let's say that here you will reach the point of tamkeen. This is the threshold or the cutoff for tamkeen, being established in this station. And here you are one of the commoners. This is an elite here, because if you are already established in the station of hala, you are one of the elites, not the commoners. But here, the people who are here, this would be the pinnacle. The people that are here, it's all the same. They're all equal, because the pinnacle of all those stations is equal. Tamkeen is here to be a visitor, or even if you're invited frequently into the station, but you're not really established, you get pushed out of it also frequently, or sometimes you get pushed out of it. If this is the cutoff of the tamkeen, then we can say that, some stations will be like this, some stations will be like this, some stations will be like this, some stations will be even like this. And so when he talks about tafreed and tawheed and so on at the end of the book, it is all for the most elite, and so most, of the first level and the second level, and we will not even have a chance. to even get admitted into those stations. But so the pinnacles of all the stations are the same. They overlap in that sense. You don't reach the pinnacle of the station. If you reach the pinnacle of the station of tawakkul, you will be at the pinnacle of the station of rida. You'll be at the pinnacle of the station of sabr. You know, think the Prophet ﷺ, think Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, not even the prophets and messengers, but think Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. So these are the people that have reached the pinnacle of all the stations. But for the commoners, sometimes you could be established in one of the stations that the Sheikh says, these are stations of the commoners. Sometimes you could be established in one of the stations, but the other station will be too far away for you, because the other station does not belong to the commoners. To be established in, and keep in mind, to be established in the station of haya, truly have shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to truly have, this modesty in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and shyness, that is huge. That is different from tawakkul. To rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to have true reliance is different from having shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You could have reliance, you could be established in the station of reliance, but not established in the station of haya. Because the station of haya is greater, is higher. And he says here that haya is basically one of the first steps of the stairway of the elites. It arises from the glorification that rests on a foundation of love. من أول مدارج أهل الخصوص يتولد من تعظيم, emanates from glorification or arises from glorification. منوط بود. منوط means it hinges on. Anwat is like, things that you hang things on. So it hinges on. Manut بود, it hinges on wood, compassion, love. So it is not only about the glorification, but it is also about the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he describes haya, to be this, like this outcome, result, byproduct. It is not the byproduct, but the outcome or result or the product of mixing glorification with love. Then you will have shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you will be able to exhibit haya in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is not it. This is not it. Everything that every act of the heart has to be translated into actions. There is no way that the heart will be righteous, upright, and the actions will be corrupted, right? So the Prophet ﷺ always wants to point us to this practicality. He said to the Sahaba, "Istahyu min Allahi haqq al-haya." He said to the Sahaba, be modest, or be shy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or show haya to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way is His due, His right. And the Sahaba said, "Inna lanastahi, walillahi alhamd." We are shy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do exhibit haya towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Walhamdulillah. And all praise be to Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ said to them, "Laysa dhalik." This is not what I'm talking about. I know what you're saying, and I know that this is part of it, but I want to alert you to the practical outcome of this. If you're truly shy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this is what you should be observant of. He said to them, "ليس ذلك ولكن الحياء من الله حق الحياء أن تحفظ الرأس وما وعى وأن تحفظ البطن وما حوى وأن تتذكر الموت والبلى ومن أراد الآخرة ترك زينة الدنيا." True shyness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to guard the head, الرأس, وما وعى, and that which it contains. Everything that it contains. What does the head contain? Your brain, your thoughts, your beliefs, and your tongue. That is what your head contains. وَأَن تَحْفَظَ الْبَطْنَ وَمَا حَوَى, and to guard your guts, basically. Al-batn here would mean guts, which would include, the private parts. It includes the stomach, the private parts. It is to take care of this and to take care of that. Everything that's above, everything that is below. So to watch what you eat and make sure it is halal, to watch your modesty, your chastity, and all of that stuff. That is تحفظ البطن وما حوى أن تحفظ الرأس وما وعى وأن تحفظ البطن وما حوى وأن تتذكر الموت والبلى, to be always conscious of الموت, the death and the trials. ومن أراد الآخرة ترك زينة الدنيا, and he who wants the akhirah should abandon the adornments of the dunya. Should abandon the adornments of the dunya. So once again, the Prophet ﷺ is trying to say that this is what you should, this is how you manifest it. If you truly have haya, min Allah Azza wa Jal, this is what you should be doing. This is how you should be manifesting this haya. This is how it will translate, practically speaking, your behavior, your conduct, even your thoughts. تحفظ الرأس وما وعى. Your thoughts will be modest, will be decent. Your very thoughts. Keep in mind, the thoughts that get pushed into your brain, that pass through your brain, you're not responsible for them. They are not your own thoughts. They are whispers. As long as you are repulsed by them, as long as you resent them and you push them away, the shaitan could whisper in your head all kinds of thoughts about Allah, about people, about yourself, all kinds of thoughts. You're not responsible for those thoughts unless you entertain them, unless you allow the shaitan to just continue to talk to you and you're not basically resisting. But the thoughts that you're responsible for are your own thoughts that you're entertaining. Certainly if you act upon them, then certainly they're yours. But even before you act upon them with your body, if you act upon them with your heart, if you despise your Muslim brother in your heart, that's it. You don't need to act upon it. You could be the most humble person, most courteous person, but deep inside your heart, you're so arrogant and you're despising everyone around you for their mistakes, their errors, their looks, their this or that, and at the same time being very courteous. So was your heart at work here? Your heart was at work. Are these just thoughts from the shaitan? No, these are your own thoughts. And they translated into actions by your own heart, even if your tongue and your limbs did not translate them. So, تحفظ الرأس وما وعى, you basically guard your head against those thoughts, resisting them. The shaitan will, throw them into your head. Keep resisting them and keep fighting them off inside your brain, and try to do this also externally. So that because there is this mutual relationship, symbiotic relationship between the exterior and the interior. So the more you humble yourself exteriorly, without hypocrisy or anything, but genuinely, But the more you humble yourself exteriorly, hopefully this will go back and humble your interior, and vice versa. It's a sort of a two-way street. Certainly, we will not be able to do justice to the topic of al-haya. Sheikh Muhammad al-Shinnawi translated a book on haya. It's called the Fiqh al-Haya, which would be translated as understanding the proper understanding of the Islamic concept of modesty. It is more than 250 pages, so it is obvious that we will not be able to cover the concept of haya itself, and we're just trying to address some of what the Sheikh said, because we can't even address everything the Sheikh said. So The Sheikh here says that the haya is basically one of the first steps. And like I told you, this is the Sheikh's take on the issue. Someone else who is a master of the past, one of the greatest masters of the past is Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, rahimahullah ta'ala. Has a different, said something that is different. Something that is very beautiful. In the article number 26 of his book, Futuh al-Ghaib, The Revelations of the Unseen, Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani gave this advice, and this advice is extremely important for people, particularly people who are practicing, particularly people who have, an anxiety about their condition, the condition of the ummah, condition of their community. So he gave this, and also particularly for people who have high aspirations, the da'is and people who have aspirations, high aspirations. He said, فَالصَّبْرَ الصَّبْرَ الرِّضَى الرِّضَى. I'll say it all in Arabic first and translate it. He said, فَالصَّبْرَ الصَّبْرَ الرِّضَى الرِّضَى الخمول الخمول الخمود الخمود السكوت السكوت الصموت الصموت الحذر الحذر النجا النجا الوحى الوحى الله الله ثم الله الإطراق الإطراق الإغماض الإغماض الحياء الحياء حتى يؤخذ بيدك وينزع عنك ما عليك ثم تغوص في بحور الفضل والمنة والرحمة. So he said, he said, patience, patience, contentment, contentment, and then he said, حفظ الحال حفظ الحال, which is guarding the state, guarding the state. After patience, patience, contentment, contentment, guarding your state, guarding your state. Whatever hal that Allah gave you, guard it, protect it. Whatever state, spiritual state that Allah gave you, protect it. Because some people go through ahwal, which are gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they just they neglect them, so they lose them. So guarding the state, guarding the state. And then he said, al-khumul, al-khumul. Al-khumul, al-khumul would be what? Obscurity, obscurity. Or away from fame, away from fame. Al-khumul, when they say Athar al-khumul, he preferred obscurity over popularity or over fame. Al-khumul, al-khumul, al-khumud, al-khumul. Al-khumud, al-khumud. Al-khumud, al-khumud means extinction, extinction. Khumud is calm, calm, or extinction, extinction. When we say khamadat an-nar, the fire went out, that is khamadat an-nar, the fire went out. So extinction, extinction, which means calm, calm. Slow down, slow down. What is he talking about here? He's not talking, does he want to suppress your energy? Absolutely not. He wants to suppress the energy of your an-nafs al-ammara, which is the provocative self, the provocative nafs, the commanding nafs, the nafs that incites evil, that nafs that commands evil or provokes you to evil. That is what he's trying to suppress. He's trying to suppress the snake inside you. He's trying to suppress the fox inside you. He's trying to suppress the sort of rabid dog inside us. We all have those. We have the foxes, we have the snakes, we have the rabid dogs. That is the nafs that he's trying to suppress, that he's telling you need to suppress. But the reproaching nafs, no, he's not wanting to suppress that. The tranquil nafs, he does not want to suppress the energy of that. But for most of us, we're dealing most of the time with the rabid dog, the snake, the fox inside us, with the nafs that provokes the evil, that commands evil, and nafs al-ammara. That is the one that needs to be suppressed, that will need to be suffocated. So al-khumul, which is away from fame, or obscurity, obscurity. Al-khumud, which means extinction, extinction, or lose that fervor inside you. You know, sometimes you see that, you know, some of the dua, some of the speakers, some of the imams, for instance, you see them having a lot of fun with da'wah. It is fun, but it is like an internal fun. It should not be that much fun, you know, like looking around you, looking at your own state, the state of your ummah. There should be some more, like, you know, I don't know where you're getting all of that fun from. So, but there should be comfort inside. There should be strength. There should be contentment. There should be rida. Certainly, you count on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of this. But it should not really be that much fun, at least externally. So al-khumud, and then he said as-sukut, as-sukut, as-sumut, as-sumut, which is quiet, silence, quiet, silence. You know, stay, you know, keep quiet, you know, silent. And then he said al-hadar, al-naja, al-waha. Caution, al-hadar, escape. Al-waha means haste to Allah. And then he said Allah, thumma Allah, and again Allah. But, you know, when I first read this, I thought that he would stop here. Should you not stop here? That's it. Because that is reaching at-tafreed and at-tawheed, and you reached him. But he wanted to say something else. That after you reach him, Azza wa Jal, there is another set now of qualities that you need to exhibit so that you could reach finally prosperity. So he said al-itraq, which means head down. Now everything will be about shyness here. So he said al-itraq, head down. Al-ighmad, eyes closed. Al-haya, modesty. حتى يؤخذ بيدك, until you are taken by the hand, وينزع عنك ما عليك, and relieved of your burdens, وتغوص في بحور الفضل والمنة والرحمة, and then you be immersed in the oceans of his graciousness, bounties, and mercy. So Sheikh Abdul Qadir here puts a lot of emphasis on the quality of haya, and haya when it comes to dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you need to go through all of this, all of what he said. You need to go through it to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once you reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you need to basically show your haya in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and exhibit that quality of modesty, shyness, bashfulness, decency, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you will be relieved of your burdens, you're relieved of your shubuhat, relieved of your shahawat, relieved of your weaknesses, you're relieved of your doubts, and be immersed in the oceans of his graciousness, bounties, and mercy. Then Sheikh al-Harawi rahimahullah said الدرجة الأولى. He said وهو على 3 درجات, it is 3 levels. الدرجة الأولى حياء يتولد من علم العبد بنظر الحق إليه فيجذبه إلى تحمل هذه المجاهدة ويحمله على استقباح الجناية ويسكته عن الشكوى. الدرجة الأولى, the first level, حياء يتولد من علم العبد بنظر الحق إليه. It is a type of haya that results from the servant's realization of the Lord's beholding of him or her. فَيَجْذِبُهُ, once you are aware of this, once you're conscious that Allah is watching you, فَيَجْذِبُهُ إِلَى تَحَمُّلِ هَذِهِ الْمُجَاهَدَةِ. Then this haya, this awareness of Allah's watching of you, will entice you to endure the struggle. تحمل هذه المجاهدة, the struggle in life. ويحمله على استقباح الجناية, and causes him or her to see the ugliness of his or her crimes. ويسكته عن الشكوى, and keeps him or her from complaining. And that is for the commoners. The commoners now are the people who are أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. This is a hadith, hadith Jibreel, to worship Allah as if He sees you, but if you can't see Him, if you are not seeing Him, then be certain that He sees you. This is the second one, the second level, the lower level, where you're worshiping Allah knowing that He sees you. And then the second level, he said, الدرجة الثانية حياء يتولد من النظر في عالم القرب. It is usually تشكيل in most of the book, or all of the books that you may encounter, it says علم القرب. It is likely عالم القرب. الدرجة الثانية حياء يتولد من النظر في عالم القرب. The second level is حياء that results from beholding the flags of nearness, not the knowledge of nearness, but the flags of nearness. Now, for the elites, they have come nearer to Allah now, and they're seeing the flags of nearness, the milestones, that they are closer to their destination. And once they see the flags of nearness, once you come closer, that nearness itself will propel you, will pull you and propel you even closer and closer. فَيَدْعُوهُ إِلَى رُكُوبِ الْمَحَبَّةِ. Seeing the flags, can you see it can you imagine someone who's like in a marathon and seeing the the flags of coming closer to the end line? So this will فَيَدْعُوهُ إِلَى رُكُوبِ الْمَحَبَّةِ, thus inviting him, once he sees those flags, thus inviting him or her to ride the mount of love, يَدْعُوهُ إِلَى رُكُوبِ الْمَحَبَّةِ وَيَرْبِطُهُ بِرُوحِ الْأُنْسِ, connecting him through the breeze of uns, comforting intimacy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now you will ride the mount of love, and the mount of love is much faster than any other mount that you have been riding before. Mount of fear, the mount of this or that, or the pursuit of reward. The mount of love is much faster and stronger and durable, much more durable than any mount that you have been riding before. But this, you will be able to ride the mount of love when you see the flags of nearness. And then you will be connected. You will be, so that the rejuvenating force now, the force that will connect you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ruh al-Uns. It is the comforting breeze of intimacy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيُكَرِّهُ إِلَيْهِ مُلَابَسَةَ الْخَلْقِ, and then making him or her resent mixing with the creations. Resent mixing with the creation. It is certainly expected when you get to that point and when you're that close and you see the flags of nearness and you ride the mount of love and you're connected by the comforting breeze of uns, or intimacy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you will not be looking behind. You will not be looking behind. Certainly that does not mean that you will abandon the creations. Any mixing with the creation that is not in serving the cause of your Lord is the mixing that is unworthy of you, unworthy of your time. At this level, any mixing with the creation that is not in service of your Lord and the cause of your Lord is unworthy of your time. And that is what you will resent. Not the mixing of the creation, not the mixing of the creation in the sense of coming to Salat al-Jama'ah or visiting someone sick or going to someone's funeral or comforting someone sad. All of this mixing is in service. It is right or wrong. So that is not the mixing that is unworthy of you. That is certainly worthy of your time. And then he said, الدرجة الثالثة حياء يتولد من شهود الحضرة. The third level is haya that arises from attending the divine presence. وهي التي تشوبها هيبة. At this level, it's a level that is mixed with awe. ولا تقارنها تفرقة, and void of تفرقة, which is dispersion. وَلَا يُوقَفُ لَهَا عَلَى غَايَةٍ, and with no finite end. So at this level, now that you have basically transcended the previous level, the second level, you've seen the flags of nearness, and now you were, once you have seen the flags of nearness, now once you do that, you ride the mount of love, and you're connected by the breeze of uns, or comforting intimacy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have this dislike, or you have this aversion to mixing with people except in the service of your Lord. You can imagine at this point that you are going to be moving much faster. And then you reach al-Hadra, which is the divine presence. And once you have reached the divine presence, then you will be filled with awe, reverence, and you will not have any tafriqa, any dispersion. This dispersion, tafriqa, is not the farq necessarily. Tafriqa is when your observation of the farq, observation of the multiplicity of conditions and states and phenomena and events in this world causes you dispersion. You are unable, because you're so consumed in your observation of the variances and the differences of the events, phenomena, and everything that's happening around you, that you are unable to see the Jama. You are unable to see that the oneness of the source of all of this. Everything converges to one source. You're unable to see this. Because of your inability to see this, you're always in tafriqa, dispersion. You're always having scattered thoughts, and your thoughts are in dispersion. But certainly, being able to watch the differences in your circumstances and serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the basis of what He wants of you and demands of you in every circumstance is not tafriqa. You could be in Jama, in togetherness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, watching the oneness of the origin of all of these things, while you are observing the furuq, the differences between your circumstances and what your Allah's wants of you, depending on your variant circumstances. And then he said, وَلَا يُوقَفْ لَهَا عَلَى غَايَةٍ, and with no finite end. Certainly when you are in al-Hadra, or the divine presence, then there is no finite end, because you have reached infinity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is infinite. And once you have reached Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you've reached infinity. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who will reside forever in the abode of His karama, His graciousness and mercy and bounties. So that's infinity, bliss without end. And inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some people reached this before. They enter Jannah, and for some people they may not reach it in this dunya, and they will have to wait for the hereafter to reach that level. Now that we have covered what the Sheikh wants to say about haya, maybe in like 5 minutes I want to say that when it comes to the issue of, and maybe I'll just cross the time by 5 more minutes, so I'll take 10 minutes to say this, or maybe less. So when it comes to one of the issues that many of the dua sort of have the difficulty with is the issue of hijab for the Muslim woman. And the issue of hijab for the Muslim woman is a little more intricate here in the West than it is in the East, because in the East, if you live in Cairo, or you live in Karachi, or you live in whatever city, eastern city of the mainlands of Islam, basically not wearing hijab is more like an act of defiance than it is an act of weakness, or an act of basically succumbing to pressure here more than there. It would be more like an act of defiance. Certainly for some people it may be out of ignorance, and for the people who are, or it may be out of shubha. But the problem is the shubha always meets with the shahwa, and when the shubha meets the shahwa, that becomes very hard to basically correct that shubha. So back home, it may be out of defiance, it may be out of shubha mixed with shahwa, or some other reason that I don't recall now. But in the West, it is a little bit more complicated than this. Not wearing hijab is a little bit more complicated than just an act of defiance or an act of shubha mixed with shahwa or this or that. And it may be weakness, it may be, like I said, given into pressure. So we have to be careful about how we talk about hijab. Many dua, sometimes, in some masajid around the country, some of the dua have been clearly told that there is no talking about hijab in this masjid. So this is one of the things that you should not be talking about. And if you're starting this job as an imam, here's a list of things that are taboos. And you figure it's taboos, I'm not going to talk about the board of trustees, I know that. but then I'm not going to talk about hijab, that's a little bit too hard. But in all honesty, many imams also have a very offensive approach or a very inappropriate approach to the topic. First of all, what your reliance will be on what? After the assistance of Allah, after the divine assistance, which is the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your reliance will be on your niyyah, your good niyyah, and your extensive, comprehensive knowledge of the topic. Right? So, first of all, seeking the divine assistance from Allah and knowing that without His divine assistance, you're not going to be able to say anything right about any topic, let alone a complicated, intricate topic of this nature. So you seek the divine assistance of Allah, the tawfiq of Allah, and then your reliance will be on two things, your good niyyah and your comprehensive knowledge of the issue. It is worthwhile. You should really have comprehensive knowledge of an issue of this intricacy before you talk about it. Okay? Now, so this is your reliance. First, the assistance of Allah, then your good niyyah and your comprehensive knowledge of the issue. Your objective will be what? To say the truth in a way that is not alienating to the sisters who are not wearing hijab, because they are our sisters. They are our full-blown sisters. They're just as Muslims as everyone else. You may have ma'asi that are worse than theirs. Whether you are a muhajjaba sister or you are a man, you may have a lot of ma'asi that are worse than theirs. And so you should not, and there is these masajid, we cannot afford to alienate anyone from the masajid. We cannot afford to alienate Muslims from the masajid. But you will have to say the truth. So what you're attempting to do is to say the truth without alienating the sisters who do not wear hijab, and also without weakening the resolve of the sisters who wear hijab. Right? Because that is also an objective. So you should not always keep in mind that virtue is always in the middle between two vices. So, think of the balance. Whenever you embark on anything, say anything, do anything, think of the right balance. The right balance. So, if your intention is only to not alienate sisters who do not wear hijab, you may weaken the resolve of the sisters who wear hijab. If your intention is only to not weaken the resolve of the sisters who wear hijab, you may alienate the sisters who do not wear hijab. But you want to do both. You want to do both. Now, moving on. Now you will want to say the truth. So one of the, I saw a post, I don't really, follow Facebook that much, but I did see a post on Facebook one day. Someone, like an academician, who teaches Islam in some university, he had written an article about hijab not being obligatory, and he said that I hope that the ulama will catch up with me one day, maybe in 1,000 years. And I really felt bad for him because it really hurt. It really hurt me. Like you feel really bad for someone like this because that is so arrogant. It means that someone is not even watching themselves. Even we have a lot of arrogance in our hearts, but at least some of us have the prudence to watch what we say so that we don't sound arrogant. And then you work on your heart and suppress that arrogance. But if you are unable to suppress the arrogance, the external arrogance, then that is a huge problem. So then at the same time, if you are the vanguard, because there is also in the culture that we, in the culture that you grew up in, it's a culture of lone rangers. If you want to be the vanguard, you have to be a mujtahid at least, like an imam mujtahid, to be at the forefront of the religious discourse. But you cannot really disagree with the ulama, all the scholars of the deen, and expect them to catch up with you in 1,000 years. That is just so. But this tells you what? It tells you the recognition of someone like this, that the ulama, the community of Muslim scholars, the entire community of Muslim scholars is disagreeing with him. Because it has been the case for the last 1,400 years. So you do want to say the truth. And you do want to be honest about the truth. That hijab is fard, hijab is obligatory, hijab is compulsory. But at the same time, honesty about the truth means that you will not exaggerate. Hijab is not salah, and it is not sawm, and it is not zakah. It is not one of the pillars of Islam. It is obligatory, it is compulsory. But do not equate it to salah. It is not, they're completely different. Do not equate hijab to salah. And if you exaggerate, you will be dismissed. You will be dismissed. And if you exaggerate, you will also be you will lose, you will have your own agenda in this case. If you, whether it is because of lack of knowledge or because if it is corrupted niyyah, but you're having your own agenda if you don't say the truth. So be honest. Second to being honest is to be compassionate. And it is important. And this is not just because we are Americanizing Islam or anything. The Prophet ﷺ was most compassionate, even with sinners. The Prophet ﷺ was more. So show empathy, because like I said, not wearing hijab in our circumstances is unlike not wearing hijab in Riyadh or in Casablanca. It is different. And you do not know the struggles that the sisters go through. You may have succumbed to pressure. You may have given in, particularly men. I know that the muhajabat sisters know they know the pressure and they know everything because they live it. But particularly for men, you have not gone through that struggle. You don't know it, so you have to show empathy, because no matter how you look, even with your little kufi, you could be a hippie, you could be anything. So you don't know their struggle, so show empathy, a great deal of empathy. That's the second thing. So be honest, say the truth without exaggeration is number one. Second, show empathy. Third, be practical. Third, be practical, which means it is not a zero-sum equation. It is not a zero-sum equation. Modesty is a spectrum, and you want to tell the sisters that you may not have hijab, but you may exercise modesty. So the fact that you do not wear hijab does not mean that you just wear whatever you want. You're still a Muslim woman. Exercise modesty. Even if you're not wearing hijab, exercise modesty. Does that sound bad? Does that sound like you're encouraging people to not wear hijab? Absolutely not. You're saying to the sisters, hijab is one of the manifestations of modesty. If you are not wearing hijab, be modest. Show the other manifestations of modesty, including your attire. If you're not wearing hijab, do not give up on modesty completely in your attire, or in the way you conduct yourself in public, or in your interpersonal dealings, in the way you interact with people of the other gender. So be practical. It is not a zero-sum game or equation. So be honest, show empathy, be honest, be compassionate, be practical, and what else? And be objective, and avoid mockery and avoid insults, and don't attempt to be funny when you talk about intricate issues. There are people that are going through, great struggle to basically put it on, or they take it off, and they feel, they feel discomfort in their hearts. So to try and be funny when you talk about an issue of this nature, of this intricacy, of this complexity, is absolutely telling of your character, of your mean, evil, character, and your corrupted intentions. And it is about posturing. It's about showing off your piety. So don't try to be funny. And in da'wah, using fun and using jokes should be like using salt in food, very infrequently, and in topics that are suitable for making one or two jokes here and there, not topics of this nature. So when we talk about Salat al-Jum'ah, we may, have some light-hearted comments, not necessarily jokes. There's no need to be joking around when you give da'wah, or when you teach, or when you post something on Facebook about the deen. Jokes are not. This is not the proper context of jokes. The Prophet ﷺ made jokes, yes, but did he make jokes in the middle of his khutbah? No, he did not make jokes in the middle of his khutbah. Some light-hearted comments that make the people laugh are okay, but not when you are addressing a serious topic of this nature. So, don't be funny. That's it. قل قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
أنا عارف الموضوع بس